Will you pray with me? Gracious and holy God, we enter into your presence with great expectations and anticipation. We ask that the meditations of our hearts and minds and the words of my mouth be acceptable in your sight. For you are the newborn King that was born this day so long ago. Amen. It's been about 50 years, only within the last 50 years, that a young girl might have found herself with child and not married, and then she might have been sent to a relative's house. Perhaps that's exactly what was going on with Mary. She goes to her cousin Elizabeth's house, and there she finds a friendly hug and a warm welcome, perhaps the first one that she has had in some time. In a time of doubt and uncertainty, Mary finds the reason to simply shout for joy. "My soul magnifies the Lord," she sings. She praises God for recognizing her a nobody among a world full of somebodies. Our imagination is piqued as this divine, pregnant peasant girl from Nazareth proclaims the mighty acts of God. You see, God in her song prefers to turn the established order on its ear in favor of the poor, the lost, and the marginalized. I imagine after Mary's outburst into song, the family gathers around a table to catch up. What's going on with the family back home? Perhaps they discuss the miracle of Elizabeth's pregnancy and the peculiar circumstances of Mary's pregnancy. Long after the lights are out and the house is quiet and the evening has gone long into night, I imagine Mary lays there and prays and has an honest talk with her God. Perhaps it goes something like this. O God of my ancestors, God of Elizabeth and God of Joseph, my heart is full of hope, but my mind is full of questions. The circumstances of this anticipated birth are odd at best, and when others began to cast shadows of doubt, I remained faithful to your promise. I am humbled that you found favor with me, someone who is as simple as a Jewish girl. I am not educated in the faith like so many girls in my village who got to go to synagogue school. My father and my mother were not leaders. We were born powerless even among our own people. And yet we were not born without hope, O God. I was born into a family of faith and of hope. As I lay here and I feel the movement of the blessed child within my womb, many questions flood my mind. I know in my heart that he is different, that he is special, but how, O God, will he serve the Lord? Soon I will return to my village to the north, and Joseph will raise him as his own. He will, no doubt, learn his father's trade, carpentry, and work beside him. He will build things for others, but what will he build? For whom will he build them? My hope is that he will learn to love the Torah and the prophets in synagogue school, but, oh God, our resources are meager and our influence is not very far-reaching. Will he become a leader? And how will he raise up to power if he is? Will he bring a new hope to our old traditions? Will he speak of wisdom and insight as the prophets do? Oh God, will he be a prophet? There is so much toil in our world. We live under cruel occupation, and there is unrest in our land. Some are talking about rebellion, and others hide from the conflict. will he lead the rebellion? Oh God, will he overthrow the government and reclaim the temple for our people? Will he work for change? Will he bring peace again? I wonder, oh God, will he be a family man? Will he marry? Will he marry the girl next door, or will he marry a girl from far away? Will he give me grandchildren? Will he be ordinary, or will he be extraordinary? I'm tired now, God. The journey was long and my body is weary. I think I'll sleep. The answer to Mary's questions took over 30 years to unfold. And there must have been times when her prayers were filled with other questions, questions of anguish and doubt as his life unfolded. There must have been prayers when they were filled with awe and understanding as she grappled and began to understand and see and watch her son become the great I am. Believers throughout time have written songs and poems and sermons to answer Mary's questions. They write about the impact that this one solitary life has made upon the world. One such sermon was written by Dr. James Allen Francis in 1926. He preaches in part these words. Jesus is a man who was born in an obscure village, the child of a peasant woman. He grew up in another village. He worked in a carpenter shop until he was 30, and then for 3 years he was an itinerant preacher. I'll bet Dr. Francis was a Methodist preacher, don't you think? He goes on to say, he never owned a home. He never wrote a book. He never held an office. He never had a family. He never went to college. He never put his foot inside a big city. In fact, he never traveled more than 200 miles from the place that he was born. He never did one of the things that are usually accompany greatness. He had no credentials but himself. And yet all the armies that have ever marched, all the navies that have ever sailed, all the parliamentarians that have ever sat, and all the kings and queens that have ever reigned, put together, have not had as much effect on our human life on this earth than this one solitary life. Friends, the Christmas story is a story about a baby born to an ordinary girl under extraordinary, uncertain circumstances. This extraordinary baby answered so many questions, and yet he also raised so many questions and left us with so many questions yet to ask in our lives. This baby was God, who left his reign in heaven and came down to earth to show us, you and me, a new way of living, a new way of prioritizing, a new way of loving. He came to change hearts and minds, not governments and principalities. The power of the baby is that it holds eternal truth. And this story is worth telling generation after generation after generation. Thanks be to God. Amen.